I want to just do a quick video just summarizing the changes coming on the Sandbox test server. So one thing I do have to point out about the Sandbox test server just beforehand is the Sandbox test server, as far as I've heard, nothing from the Sandbox makes it directly onto the live server without receiving some changes. So this is still subject to change, and it probably will be changed significantly before any sort of idea like this here makes it to the live server. So effectively what this is it's a significantly rebalance of the game just in general. Like, it's supposed to keep things pretty much the same, but it's gonna change things no matter what happens, pretty much. So let's just go over the previous iteration of the premium round rebalancing. Pretty much what it was just a flat nerf, or it was just a flat nerf just to premium rounds specifically. Like, so everything else remained the same, just the one feature which everybody's pissed off about, or which most people are pissed off about, I should say. Just that one feature was the one that was nerfed. But I'm guessing because people were probably moaning about premium rounds being nerfed, they've decided to go down a different road with this particular sandbox. So effectively, what they're doing is they're going to boost the health of all vehicles in the game. It'll be based off of the survivability parameter of the vehicle and the actual base health of the vehicle as it is at the moment. So you can see here that the mouse would get an extra 18% health, and the Leopard 1 would get 29% extra health. Now the reason for that there is because, well, the reason why the Leopard 1 is going to get extra health over the mouse is because the mouse has higher survivability overall, so it doesn't need as much of a health boost. Whereas the Leopard 1 has practically no survivability, so it needs as much of a health boost as it can get. So that's effectively the logic behind that there, but both tanks effectively increase their health by about 500 to 600 health, effectively, is like the best way to describe it. So next thing that they're doing is they're going to increase the alpha damage of vehicles in the game just in general. So you can see here that with 750 alpha damage guns, their alpha damage will change from being 750 with standard rounds to being 1060. Meanwhile, the premium rounds would remain at the 750 alpha damage level. So effectively, the premium rounds would do 310 less damage than the standard rounds. When it comes to another type of gun, like the 105mm tier 10 medium tank guns, you can see that usually they would do 390 with standard and premium rounds, whereas now on the Sandbox test server they would do 525 with standard rounds and 390 with the premium rounds. Now, if you're looking at just the damage changes without taking into account the health increases, this looks like a really bizarre, ridiculous change. But I did some maths on this here just to try and work out how much of a difference this would have. How much of a difference this would make to the game when it comes to the the time to kill and how long it takes vehicles to die and things like that. So, whoops, didn't mean to do whatever I just did there. So, just to start off here, I worked out the health change for the mouse and the Leopard 1. So the mouse has 3000 health at the moment, got an extra 18%, bringing it up to 3540. That's the number I'm going to use for this, as you can see here. When it comes to the Leopard 1, I'm using its current health rather than its 1.5.1 health because I feel like this would be the number they're more likely to use. So this thing effectively goes from having 1950 to having 2515, which I'm going to round to 2520 because I don't see Wargaming giving something a health pool ending in 15. I feel like that's just a bit weird. There's only one vehicle I can think of in the game which has a weird health pool like that, and that's the 45 TP, I think it's called, with the stock turret. It has 1182 health for some bizarre reason. But you can see here that the cannon, well, I've just written here cannons, and the amount that the alpha damage is changing between the vehicles. This is the standard round before, this is standard round after, so 310 alpha damage change. Whereas with the 105mm gun, 390 alpha damage to 525, so that's effectively a 135 alpha damage change. So pretty significant changes in that regard. But you can also see that whenever I worked out the percentage of damage that a vehicle would take from getting hit by one of these rounds, the time to kill seems to remain the same for the standard round, or gets a little bit faster for the standard round, But across the board, the time to kill with premium rounds is longer. So it'll take a lot longer if you're just spamming premium rounds to kill an enemy vehicle than it would if you're firing like standard rounds when you need to. So you can see here that on the live server, it would take 4 or 5 shots to kill a mouse with an E100's 150mm gun doing 750 alpha. So it would take 4 or 5 shots because it does exactly 25% damage to a mouse with an average roll. So depending on how lucky you are with RNG, it would take 4 or 5 shots most of the time. Whereas when it comes to the sandbox, it's practically guaranteed to be 4 shots because you're taking off 30% of its health with a single hit. Whereas with the sandbox using gold rounds, you would take off about 21% of its health. So it would almost certainly take 5 hits for you to kill a mouse with the gold round, in comparison to almost guaranteed 4 hits for the standard round. So the time to kill would go up if you're using the gold rounds in that scenario there, and it's pretty much the same across the board. But you can see that the numbers just differ depending on the vehicles. You can see here in this case, the time to kill for the standard round actually goes down from 8 shots to 7, even though it's only a small difference in the health pool for the vehicles. So it's interesting to see that there, that in some ways that it's actually going to be faster now to kill a vehicle than it would have been before. So it's interesting to see that, because like it's interesting to think that they would potentially go down that direction where they would actually make it so there's more of a benefit to firing standard rounds rather than just more of like a deterrent to firing gold rounds. Because the previous system, I guess, like one of the problems they could have had with that was nerfing gold rounds. It's just a deterrent to using gold rounds. It doesn't really promote the usage of standard rounds, and people would probably still just YOLO around the map firing nothing but gold because they can. Whereas with a situation like this here, if it's going to take you an extra 1 or maybe even 2 hits to kill an enemy vehicle using gold rounds, that's really going to discourage people from using gold rounds unnecessarily. I mean, E50M, if it has good shots against a mouse, like into the side armor, it's going to drastically speed up the time to kill when they're using standard rounds in comparison to using gold rounds. I mean, it could take 9 or 10 shots for an E50M with the gold rounds, or whereas it would take 7 shots for the standard rounds. So it's interesting to see that. And by the way, the reason why I've written like 9 or 10 is because it's up to RNG whether or not you kill them in 9 shots or 10 shots. It's technically like 9.09 shots that's required in order to kill a mouse with the standard round. So technically it's 10 shots. Probably like I would say probably like 60% of the time it would require 10 shots to kill a mouse with the premium rounds, and only sometimes it would require 9 shots. But yeah, I put 9 or 10 in there because that's just up to RNG at that point. But you can see here I also worked out the details for the E50M, or for the E100 versus the Leopard 1. You can see the time to kill remains the same, 3 shots, 3 shots, then it increases by 1 shot for the gold rounds, and for the Leopard 1 against the E50M's gun, 5 shots, 5 shots, and then 7 shots for using the gold rounds. So it does seem to make sense the way they're doing this here, because it really will like discourage the usage of gold rounds unnecessarily if it's going to require an extra potentially 1 or 2 hits in order to kill a vehicle. Whereas at the moment there's no disadvantage. It's going to require the same amount of shots to kill a vehicle if you're firing gold or standard rounds. But if this is the change to go down, if this is the route to go down, then this is definitely going to have the impact of discouraging people from firing gold rounds. And out of curiosity as well, I did a little bit of maths just trying to work out the amount of damage that potentially like tanks like the Super Conqueror, the Jagdpanzer E100, and tanks like the Death Star. Like I wanted to work out roughly like how much alpha damage those tanks would have if they underwent the same changes as this. So assuming the damage increases by 30% for a 400 alpha damage gun, the 400 alpha guns will go up to 540 alpha damage. The Jagdpanzer E100's gun will go from 1050 to 1520 with a 45% increase, or 1575 with a 50% increase, which is pretty crazy to look at. And you can see that the Death Star's hash rounds would probably go from around about 1750 to up 2540 up to 2625, Like, that's some just crazy high alpha damage numbers. But you have to also keep in mind, all vehicles are going to have their HP pools buffed, so this gun would probably still be able to one-shot tier 10 medium tanks. As you can see here, the Leopard's health is 2,515 or 2,520 with the health I gave it here. The Death Star with this number would still be able to one-shot a Leopard with no problem. So I guess in theory, like, things would remain pretty much the same. It is like, this is effectively the same thing as the original change that they proposed. It's just doing it in a very different way. They're not nerfing premium rounds directly. It's more of like an indirect nerf by buffing other things around it. So yeah, that's probably like the best way to put it. But I do think it's interesting that Wargaming is trying something like this out. I don't think anybody predicted what they were going to do with this, but I do think it works out, and I'm just guessing that Wargaming is probably going to do a lot of fine tuning on this to try and make sure everything works out the way it needs to. I will say though, it is a very interesting concept to look at this and just see how exactly Wargaming worked it out.